Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to That's Not in the Budget. Today's video, we're going to go over written budgets. We're going to go over what it is, how to make one, and most importantly, why you should make one every single month. So to start things off, what is a budget? A budget is simply a plan that tells your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. It doesn't have to be restrictive, right? You can make your budget whatever you want it to be. You can put whatever in the budget that tailors to your lifestyle. It doesn't have to be a restrictive tool. If anything, it gives yourself freedom to spend money on what you want to spend it on. It can also help your spouse and you get on the same page in reference to finances, right? Typically in a relationship, you have one side of the relationship that is more the spender. They like to, they prioritize on spending money. They like to buy things. Where on the other side of the relationship, you have someone who is traditionally the saver. They're more about saving money for later, saving up, looking ahead at the future. And that's how your typical relationship goes. It's pretty rare that you and your spouse are both spenders or both savers. So once you agree on a budget at the start of a month, once you and your spouse are on the same page, you've already had your own input, like that. You're then able to hold each other accountable because you both had the same amount of input. So whatever you put on the budget, you're both in agreement with. 93% of millionaires continue to budget even after they've reached millionaire status. So 9 out of 10 millionaires, even though they have a substantial amount of wealth, they continue to budget each and every single month because it is that important because you need to come up with a plan, or else it's very simple to break your budget and lose the wealth that you've accumulated. So today we're going to talk about written budgets. There's a couple pros and cons to a written budget. There's more than just a written budget. You could do electronic budget. There's tons of budgeting apps out there. If you're more of an Excel person like I am, you can do a budget on Excel. You can use a dry erase board. There's just so many different ways to do it. Today we're going to cover the written budget, which is the simplest and it's also the cheapest. Those are the two big pros to why you would do a written budget. Personally, this is my least favorite because it is messier and it's not as convenient as some of the other methods, which I'm going to cover a little bit later on in this video. So to do a written budget, simply all you need is a piece of paper, a pen or pencil, and a calculator, which I'm sure you have on your phone. And we're going to go into how to do that right now. So you want to do your budget at the beginning of every single month. Why that's important is because you're making a plan to spend your money. Before you get paid, the budget needs to be in place so that you don't frivolously spend and you can track what your expenses are. So you need to do it before each month begins. So since we're in July, I'm going to do a example of a July budget. So the median household income, which is what I'm going to use for these examples, in 2020 was $67,521. That puts them in a 22% tax bracket. So take-home pay is roughly $52,000. Now you need to calculate, or you need to do your budget based on your take-home pay after taxes. It's also very important to determine or know your frequency of pay. So do you get paid once a month? Do you get paid every week? Do you get paid twice a month? And you need to tailor your budget to that, and I'll explain more about that in just a minute. But for this example, we're going to use a $52,000 take-home pay, which is an annual amount. And since we're only doing a monthly budget, we need to find out what we take home every single month. So you're going to take your annual amount, 52,000 divided by, there's 12 months in a year, which gives us $4,333 repeating. I'm going to use in this example a frequency of pay of twice a month, because I think that's pretty common. People typically get paid bi-weekly or twice a month. I personally get paid on the 1st and the 15th. So I'm going to take that $4,333, and because I'm going to split it up into two equal paychecks throughout the month, I'm going to go ahead and divide that by 2, which will give me each individual paycheck. So my income for the first paycheck is $2,166, and that goes in our income column. And then for the second check is going to be the exact same, $2,166. So you need to know your income in order to do your budget. I know that's, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but like I'll ask my coworkers, what do they make in a month or in a year, and some of them don't know, and they're salary based, which is pretty sad. So you need to know what you make how much you're getting taken out for taxes. Do you have any other allotments or retirement or bonuses? Like, you need to know what you make in a year. If you don't know how to find that out and you're not salary, look at your past history of paychecks. Say, each paycheck is $1,600, right? And you get paid twice a month. You multiply that by 2, that's $3,200 a month take-home pay, and then you would simply multiply that by 12 to find your annual amount. Or you could just look at your last tax statement for when you filed taxes the previous year. It'll say what your taxable income was. So in that case, it was $38,400 annually. Next, you want to do is list out all of your expenses. Now, everybody's expenses are going to be different depending on where they live in the country. Do they have debt? Do they not have debt? Student loans, car payments, how much is electric? So it's going to be tailored to the individual. So for this one, I'm going to use kind of just generic expenses that most households have. And I'm actually going to draw a line right down the center of my budget, because we're breaking this down into 2 separate paychecks. So this will be the 1st through the 15th of July, and then this will be the 16th to the 31st of July. So we need to tailor our expenses. We can't have everything come out on the 1st to the 15th because we only have $2,166 able to be spent. So if that means you need to move some of your expenses around, like if your mortgage or your rent payment comes out on the 1st and the 15th, and you have an extremely high car payment, and your electric and water also comes out before you get paid again, you may have to change some of those around, which you can do. You can call whoever you have a loan through for a car payment and change your due date. But that's what we're going to look at in our budget. So for expenses, I'm just going to list them out in a straight column. So rent, car payment, utilities, so water, electric, trash, food, so you need to eat, gas, for transportation, getting to and from work or wherever else you're going. And that's going to be my expenses for the 1st to the 15th. For the 16th to the 31st, I'm going to have insurance. If you have 2 separate cars that you're making payments on, I would strongly advise you to not have them both come out either on the 1st to the 15th or whatever your frequency of pay is. Just make sure if you get paid once a month, you can list them all your expenses for the entire month, because you get paid once a month. So it really depends on you, the individual, your frequency of pay, where you list your expenses. So we have insurance. I'm going to do another category for gas. That's vehicle gas, cell phone, miscellaneous. I'll add a miscellaneous column over here as well. And then any other expenses that you may have, we'll do save as well, just so they're somewhat even. Okay, so rent, we're going to do $1,000 for rent. Car payment, the average car payment is between like $500 and $600, sadly. We're going to do $450 for a car payment. Water, it's about 35 bucks. Electric, in the summer, obviously your electric is going to be more if you have central air or window units to cool your home. So since it is July, I'm going to go with $150, which is on the high end. Trash, it's about 25. Food, if you have kids, right, this may be much more expensive versus if you're a single individual. For food, my wife and I, we spend between $750 and $800 a month. So I'm going to do $400 for food for the 1st to the 15th. Vehicle gas, we live in the great state of California, where vehicle gas is the highest in the country. So I'm going to budget $200 for vehicle gas for the month, so $100 every paycheck. And then miscellaneous, I like to leave myself with kind of a buffer zone in case I forget something or something comes up, a birthday, anniversary, things like that. On the second category, I'm actually going to add a credit card over here as well, since the majority of people, unfortunately, have credit cards and carry a balance. I'm going to do a future video on consumer debt coming up pretty soon, so please stay tuned for that. And then student loans as well. Okay, so that's all of our expenses. Insurance, once again, these are all going to vary depending on where you live. We pay about $120 for insurance every single month. Gas is going to be the same, $100 as before. Phone is $150. Miscellaneous, I'm going to budget another $100 for miscellaneous expenses. Savings, we're going to wait. Credit card, we're going to wait. And student loans, we're going to wait until we see what we actually have left. So once you have all your expenses written out, you're going to take your monthly income and you're simply going to subtract your expenses. So for the 1st to the 15th, $2,166 minus $1,000 for rent, $450 for a car payment, $35 for water, $150 for electric, $25 for trash, $400 for food, $100 for gas. So we have $6 remaining, and we have one more line item, which is miscellaneous. So we actually can't have a miscellaneous category for the 1st to the 15th unless we lessen one of these other categories. I mean, most of these are fixed expenses. They're due when they're due, unless you move them over, which is so important to know when things are due so that you can budget accordingly. So for miscellaneous, I'm actually not going to be able to have that for the 1st to the 15th, miscellaneous expenses. Or I could, lessen gas, depending on how far you work or what you do on the weekends. Some of these can be cut, get some coupons, you can save on your food budget, so on and so forth, or move one of those bills over. Realistically, I would probably call my my auto loan company, and I would see if I could move that to like the 16th or later on in the month, so that $450 doesn't come out of my check the 1st through the 15th. But for this scenario, we're just going to cancel the miscellaneous. So I got $6 left from the 1st to the 15th. I'm going to add my second check, $2,166, and then I'm going to go through my line items and subtract $120 for insurance, $100 for gas, $150 for phone, miscellaneous is another $100. So now we have $1,702 left. For your credit cards, you need to know what your minimum payments are. Typically, it's 1 to 2% of your total balance. So say you had a $6,000 balance, your minimum payment would be $60. So we're just going to go with 60 for now, minus 60. And then student loans, same thing. Whatever your minimum payment is for your student loans. In this scenario, we'll use 200. Minus 200. So that leaves us $1,442 left. So what do we do with that? Do you want to put that into savings? Do you want to put a chunk into savings? Do you want to put it towards the credit card to pay the balance off? That's entirely up to you. With your extra money, depending on what your savings account is looking right now, if you don't have at least $1,000 in savings as an emergency fund, that's where I would start. So in this scenario, I'm not going to put anything in savings because I'm going to assume we already have that. So depending on what our balance is between our credit card and our student loan and our interest rate, you and your spouse need to get, or yourself, whoever you're living with, you need to get on the same page on what to spend that extra money on. In this scenario, credit cards typically have a higher interest rate than student loans do or a car loan, but your balances also play a part there. But in this scenario, I want to get rid of all my credit card debt, so I'm going to take that extra $1,442 and I'm going to put it towards my credit card to pay that balance off. Once that balance is paid off, say I only owed $1,500 on that, that's paid off this month, done and clear. In August, I won't even have to have that line item on there, and I can start knocking through my other debts. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Essentially, this is how you create a budget. It's really simple. The last thing I'm going to go into is why I don't prefer the written budget as much as an electronic budget or a dry erase budget. It's going to get a little bit messy. So we already put this line item in here. We know we have $1,442 left over. I'm going to take 14. We're going to make that an even 1,500. So we're going to cross out the 60. And put 1,500, and now we have $2 remaining right in our budget. So as you can see, as you spend money throughout the month, here's what I like to do. So my spouse and I, we're set on this budget. Everything looks great. Now to actually put it into practice. When we go to the grocery store and we spend, $100, well, what do? You get your receipt, you come home, you come to your budget, or you can bring your notebook or whatever you're recording your budget in with you to the grocery store. And now you need to subtract whatever that expense was from what you budgeted in that time period. So if I spent $100 at the grocery store, I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to cross out the 400. I spent $100 and now I only have $300 remaining. I got to go to the store again in a couple days. I forgot something. Now I spent $50. I'm gonna come back, cross out that 300, and write my 250. And as you can see, as you cross things out, it gets to be a little bit messy. One of the ways you can avoid the messiness is if you use a pencil. So you could just go through here. Once you spend some money, erase the total amount from the category and write the remaining amount. That's an option. In future videos, I'm going to go over how to do this on a dry erase board, which is very, very similar, as well as some apps and some spreadsheets that you can use to budget. But this is one of the reasons why I don't like the written budget, is because very quickly it can become very messy. Once we pay something, so say rent's due on the first of the month, we paid it, you could either grab a highlighter or put a check mark next to it. That's entirely up to you. Whatever you need to do to keep track of your expenses, always get a receipt. Would be my number one tip. Whenever you spend money of any kind at the store, they typically offer you, do you want a receipt? And I feel like in today's society, everybody says, no, I don't want a receipt. And they just, they wonder where their money went at the end of the month when they have a negative balance and overdraft fees on their account. Get a freaking receipt. Like, they're free, they don't cost anything. In case you don't know what a receipt is, it's essentially a log of what you bought and what you purchased. So at the bottom, there'll be a total. So if you spent $67 at the grocery store, take your receipt home. As soon as you get home, come in your budget workbook, cross off the amount that you budgeted for the month, subtract what you just spent, and write the new amount on there so that you always know how much you spent of each category. So the car payment typically stays the same, right? We're going to check that off. We paid our car payment. Water, maybe it was $40 this month instead of $35. So we're going to cross out the 35. Put 40 here. We paid that, but now we're $5 in the hole. So maybe instead of $100 for gas, we need to pull that $5 from somewhere. It can't just, you can't just change budget amounts and put yourself in the negative. So maybe $100 for gas, it's 95 instead, so on and so forth. So you guys get the idea. As you spend the money, either check off the things that you spent or change the category amount and pull from a different category. If you're taking a road trip and $95 isn't going to cut it for the 1st to the 15th, and you have an extra, $1,400 in your budget once you get paid on the 16th to the 30th, you don't have to put as much on your credit card, or you don't have to put as much on your student loan, whatever the extra amount is. And you can pull from separate categories. That's why the budget is so, it gives you so much freedom, because you can put whatever you want on this piece of paper. If you have video games, say you're a gamer, you can put a line item for video games. It doesn't matter. Whatever you spend your money on, put it in the budget and budget a realistic amount accordingly. You're not going to budget, $200 a month for food, because that's not realistic, right? But yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if you ever want to, send me an email, it is that'snotinthebudget@gmail.com. So I hope to hear from you guys soon. Like I said, stay tuned. I'm going to be doing a ton of videos in the future on personal finance, how to do different types of budget, what debts to pay off first, high interest versus low balance, what's going on in the markets right now. Should I save for a retirement? Should I not save for retirement? So on and so forth. I have so many video ideas. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.